Odds are you clicked on this video because you want to be the villain in Apex. Revenant, when used correctly, can be one of the most oppressive legends to deal with in all levels of play, with his ultimate allowing you to full send and maybe even wipe a team without any real risk to you or your teammates. Revenant is the 17th most played legend with a 2.2% pick rate, presumably because a lot of players use him completely wrong, leading to poor results. By sticking through this guide, you should have a solid idea on how to approach the game as a Revenant and start seeing some good results when playing with your teammates. So stay tuned to learn how to play Revenant in Apex Legends Season 13. Let's take a look at that kit. Starting off with his passive, Stalker allows you to crouch walk faster and climb walls higher than any other legend. Your crouch walk speed is the exact same as your normal walking speed, and Revenant can climb walls 6 times as high as any other legend in the game. He also climbs shorter walls 25% faster in comparison to other legends, as it takes longer for the climbing speed to deaccelerate. Even though Revenant has been out for 9 seasons, this little mid-fight movement trick is still guaranteed to throw your enemies off. When fighting a typical player, you would expect crouches to slow them down, and as such adjust your aim to compensate. But since Revenant doesn't get slowed thanks to his Stalker passive, he can spam strafes to dodge and then start crouching to instantly throw off your aim. You can take this to the next level by mixing in crouching with your strafe spam, making it really uncomfortable for the average player to keep up. It helps a lot since Revenant has one of the largest and bulkiest hitboxes in the game, and it's favorable to crouch when trading just to make yourself a smaller target. If you needed one more reason to abuse your passive, some weapons also have a higher accuracy when you are crouched. Since the player never makes movement noises when crouching, Revenant can use this to his advantage and crouch walk up to his enemies without any real penalty. Make sure to use this to your advantage if you're trying to flank a team. Revenant's tactical silence is incredibly useful and a little bit difficult to pull off, giving it a high skill ceiling but makes it very satisfying when used properly. Activating the ability and holding it allows you to line up an arc, and when released fires a ball for up to about 100 meters in front of you on a decline, and horizontally 75 meters. The ball explodes on contact, leaves a lingering cloud for 10 seconds which silences any enemy that comes in contact with it, disabling their abilities and active passives for 15 seconds. This only prevents the characters from using their abilities, and most abilities that are already in use will not be affected, excluding Pathfinder's Grapple, Gibraltar's Gun Shield, and Lifeline's Combat Revive. Using this silence, much like hitting like on this video, counts as a one-handed activity and means that you can aim the ability while using other items such as reloading, healing, and more. The ball has 2 charges which can be thrown and be active at the same time, and each charge has a 25-second cooldown. The smoke cloud is pretty big and impossible to see through, making it a perfect makeshift visual obstruction from your enemies, in addition to acting as a great deterrent from your enemies actually running in and getting themselves silenced. You can throw your silence against where your enemies are holding or into windows to block them from shooting you. You can also stick the silence against the door, which will make it move along the door if opened, but you can also use it defensively when healing or reviving in an exposed position. Fun fact, a Wraith who's channeling a portal will have it interrupted if she's silenced, making Revenant a great counter for any Wraith who might be trying to go for a kidnap play. Much like frag grenades, you can throw your silence straight up into the air to have it come down after 4 seconds. You can also use this to skynade with the silence and catch your enemies completely off guard. Because it is again a one-handed activity, you can throw a frag grenade at the same time as the silence to silence and blast your enemies off at the same time. Now, this is a bit awkward to pull off before you get used to it, but I really recommend trying to throw your silence on top of enemies when taking a fight, especially if you are fighting a legend with an escape ability who might be overextended. The silence stuns them briefly and turns them into an easy target when their escape abilities are taken away from them. Revenant's ultimate Death Totem drops a totem that protects users from death. Instead of getting killed or downed, you will return to the totem. Placing the totem takes a quick 1-second animation and plays a loud sound along with an animation that's visible to nearby enemies and then lasts for 30 seconds unless destroyed. The totem has a total of 100 health points. Keep in mind that unlike other ultimates, there's no preview, and thus activating your ultimate will instantly place it where you are aiming. Revenant, his teammates, and your enemies can all use the totem to turn themselves into a shadow for 25 seconds. Shadows have 100 health points with their shield temporarily deactivated, and they can't use any healing items. The Death Totem's default timer is extended by whoever is the last person to take the totem and become a shadow. If the person stays a shadow for 25 seconds or gets sent back, the totem will disappear once they come back. Users who take the full 100 damage and are sent back will return to the totem with 50 health with the amount of shields they had before becoming a shadow. but if they had lower than 50 health when activating it, they'll instead come back with that health. As you're approaching the end of your 25 seconds of shadow form, a loud ticking noise will start playing, indicating you're about to return to your normal form. This is also audible for your enemies. When you do, you don't take the 50 health penalty, but you also won't be sent back to the totem. I suggest trying to get yourself sent back before it goes away to avoid you from getting caught out by the enemy team while your teammates are all the way back at the totem. One advantage of the shadows is that they can still loot, and that loot will stay with them even if they return to the totem, meaning that you can use the ultimate to make a quick run for that armor swap or some loot when you're caught in a pinch while being low on resources. You can also use it to do a risky rest on one of your down teammates. The totem is also a great tool to make an entry on enemy team with minimal risk. All you really have to do is place the totem on a high ground or safe position, and then try to run into the enemy team with your teammates with focus fire to try to get a knock or a kill on one of your enemies. When you all are sent back, you can push and clean up the fight together. For additional value, you would want to combine your Revenant ultimate with a high mobility one, such as Octane's Jump Pad, Ash's Face Breach, or Wraith's Portal. This allows you to not only push and surprise your enemies as a shadow, but also quickly re-engage after being sent back to the totem. Keep in mind that placing the totem near those abilities is vital, and it's especially important that the ultimates don't go straight into the enemy team, because yeah, there's not much to lose when you're engaging in shadow form, but you also won't really get much done if you send into your enemies way too hard. If you use a jump pad, make sure the jump pad isn't directly into your enemy's line of sight, and with some cover to keep you safe when you are mid-air. Wraith and Ash portals want to be at a slight off position or high ground to stop the enemy teams from simply catching you off guard while on the other side. I suggest using the ultimate when you see fit, especially since there isn't much risk associated with the Death Totem as long as it's used properly. Make sure to be careful about making a push with the totem if there are other teams nearby, as it might end up camping the totem and waiting for your return for easy kills. In team fights, your huge hitbox and lack of escape ability means Revenant wants to stay around the middle to the back of the fight, applying pressure and damage along his silence or ultimate if needed. Despite your strong flanking abilities, it's not something I recommend unless you're absolutely sure you can take an angle without being challenged or punished for it. Remember that you can use your ultimate to make an opening with your team, but it can also be used if you already made a good opening with a knock or damage to really swing the fight in your favor. When it comes to a loadout, Revenant wants to run weapons that are good for mid-range damage and poking, or a full close range loadout such as an SMG coupled with a shotgun to cause the most damage possible in a short burst while pushing using his Death Totem. Also guys, today marks the final how to play Legend video with Revenant. I'll be uploading updated guides and significant balance patches and new legends, but I'm super happy to sunset the series until Respawn releases any new updates. If you guys have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe not to miss any new updates, and check out my Patreon to access the ever-expanding Apex knowledge library. If you want to see how I use the Revenant skills to drop a 20 bomb using him, that video is available on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
Gonna shut you up. Spring will be closing in 30. She ain't far. Recharging me.
I didn't trigger her passive.